Yeah.
It's the last Saturday in October, and things are about to get real. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Make sure to like this video, go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, and check out everything we have to offer over at thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, and you can also sign up for our expert picks. The links for all those things are in the description below, so do not miss out on any of the extra college football content. Well, guys, we said a few weeks ago that we thought Week 9 had the potential to be even better than Week 7, which, as we've said over and over, has so far been the best week of college football we've had in 2019. And I do think Week 9 can be even better, as we have three huge ranked versus ranked matchups, all of which will have major college football playoff implications or major conference implications. And then we have two games up here that, even though they're not ranked versus ranked matchups, if history is any indication, they should be great games, and two of these top teams should be on upset alert. So as always, we're here to break down our Week 9 predictions, our top 5 games of Week 9, and at the end, we will conclude with our Heisman Watch. We took a break last week, and we are back in full force this week. So we're going to jump straight into it with number 13 Wisconsin traveling to number 3 Ohio State. A game that unfortunately isn't as big anymore and doesn't look as big because Wisconsin decided to go lose to Illinois last week, 24-23, a 2-win Illinois team on the road. Wisconsin, despite that, only dropped from 6th to 13th, and this game is still big for the entire Big Ten. It's big for Ohio State because they can't afford a loss here. They're number 3 in the country, and maybe some will say they have a loss to give, sure, but they still have a game against Penn State, they still have a game against Michigan, and they still have a game against whoever they may face in the Big Ten championship game if they can get there. Wisconsin, with that loss to Illinois, that put Minnesota in the driver's seat of the Big Ten West. So Wisconsin's playing catch-up now, and they need to do everything possible to win and hope Minnesota screws up, which they have yet to play each other, in order to try to get to the Big Ten title game. In recent years, it's been a great matchup between the Badgers and the Buckeyes. In 2017, Wisconsin fell 27-21 in the Big Ten championship game, and back in 2016, Wisconsin fell 30-23 in overtime. Both of those to the Buckeyes, both of those one-possession thrillers. But I'm here to say that I don't think that's going to be the case in 2019. I do not think it's going to be the case this year. We mentioned Wisconsin's loss to Illinois. We mentioned that they had 3 turnovers in that game, and they allowed 315 yards of total offense to the Fighting Illini. And I hate to break it to you, but Ohio State's offense is light years better than Illinois' offense. Wisconsin, like the Illinois game, is going on the road. Home field advantage plays a big role in this. They're going up against a better offense in Ohio State. They're going up against a tougher environment in Ohio State. And Ohio State's defense is light years better than Illinois' as well. So the fact that Wisconsin can only muster about 23 points in that game is concerning because Ohio State's only allowing about 8 points per game and 92.7 rushing yards per game. That's a problem for Jonathan Taylor, who's rushed for nearly 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns this season. But with Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins and this Ohio State defense, I just don't see any way that Wisconsin, following that Illinois loss, comes on the road to Columbus and defeats the Buckeyes. Ohio State wins this one, and it's not going to be as close as it has been in recent years. Moving down, we've got a huge SEC matchup, a huge SEC West matchup. This one will determine who finishes second in the SEC West behind Alabama, assuming the winner of this game doesn't beat Alabama. And then, of course, we'll kind of eliminate one or the other maybe from the college football playoff race. We'll start with, we got Auburn. We got number 9 Auburn up here, who just cracked the top 10 once again, beat Arkansas by 41 points. They're back in the top 10 after they dropped out following the Florida loss. They're getting a 33.7% chance to win this game. And I'm going to go out on record here and say that's a little too high. And I'm not an Auburn hater. People will be quick to say I'm not an Auburn hater. I'm here to tell you that Auburn's been playing some really, really good football. They've been playing some phenomenal football. They're allowing just 17.1 points per game. Bo Nix, as a freshman quarterback, has done just about as good as you can do as a freshman quarterback thrust into a new offense, taking the helm as one of the top teams in the entire nation and playing elite defenses like LSU, Florida, and soon to come Alabama and Georgia. So Bo Nix doing a great job, and they're doing absolutely everything they can. But can they keep up with LSU and an offense that's averaging over 50 points per game and Joe Burrow, who's thrown for nearly 2,500 yards and 29 touchdowns this year? Can Auburn's defense do that? They held Florida to 24 points in the Swamp. That's fantastic, but Florida's offense isn't nearly as good as LSU's offense. Another question I have, is Auburn's pass rush going to be able to do anything against LSU? Because Florida and their dominant pass rush had 0 sacks when the Gators and the Tigers met up a few weeks ago. That 42-28 victory for LSU in Death Valley. Florida, coming into that game, had 10 sacks against Miami, had well over 20 sacks on the season, got 0 against LSU. Auburn, with arguably the best defensive line in the country, can they get any pressure on Joe Burrow? They might get a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. LSU takes care of Auburn in the Tiger matchup in Death Valley. It also should be noted, for those of you that do care about these stats, that the home team between Auburn and LSU has won 16 of the past 19 meetings, and LSU is 12-5 against Auburn when both teams are ranked in the top 25. That once again, rivalries, things like that, you throw that out the window, but interesting facts going into this huge matchup that will determine major stakes in the SEC and major stakes in the college football playoff race. Coming below that, we have number 6 Penn State at Michigan State, and this is a game, guys, once again, that we mentioned earlier. On paper, looks like an easy win for Penn State. Looks like Penn State should come in and take care of business here, but if history is any indication, Michigan State is going to give the Nittany Lions a huge fight in this one and may just pull off the upset outright. Because the past 2 meetings, Penn State, as a top 10 team, has fallen to Michigan State. But unlike the past 2 years, in this year, Penn State is not coming off a loss to Ohio State. The past 2 years that the Nittany Lions lost to the Spartans, they were coming off crushing blows, crushing defeats to the Buckeyes. In this game, they're coming off a thrilling victory over Michigan. So there shouldn't be any hangover after a bad loss. They should be wide awake coming into this game against a Michigan State team that has a phenomenal defense, an absolutely outstanding defense, but simply does not have what it takes offensively to keep up with Penn State. Because we know Penn State can put up big numbers with Sean Clifford and KJ Hamler. And now you've got Noah Cain putting up big numbers as well. Michigan State just doesn't have that. They had 10 points combined in their 2 games against Ohio State and Wisconsin. 10 points combined. Shutout against Wisconsin, 10 points against Ohio State. Penn State's defense is up there with Ohio State and Wisconsin. They're one of the best in the nation, one of the best in the Big Ten. So what I expect to happen here against Michigan State for Penn State, I expect this game to be similar to the Spartans game against the Buckeyes. I expect them to hang in there, expect it to be a battle at first, and then, like Ohio State, Penn State will pull away late, make the game look a little more lopsided than maybe it really was. But Michigan State's defense will hold Penn State in check for a little bit, but in the end, they just simply don't have enough offensively to defeat the Nittany Lions. Penn State wins this one, keeps their college football playoff and Big Ten title hopes alive. Huge games coming up for the Nittany Lions against undefeated Minnesota and, of course, Ohio State later on in November. Then we've got a matchup here, a rivalry game, which you all know, rivalry games, you throw history, you throw records, you throw every single thing out the window because it does not matter. But this one does. This matchup matters so much, more so for Notre Dame than Michigan, whose 2 losses now have pretty much eliminated them from the college football playoff race and really the Big Ten title race, as both those losses came in conference play. Obviously, this is not a Big Ten title game for Michigan, so a loss here doesn't hurt them in terms of their Big Ten standings, but it would, absolutely eliminate their college football playoff hopes and maybe drop them out of the top 25. Notre Dame has not visited Michigan. These 2 teams have not met at the Big House since 2013. So an interesting fact there. Their rivalry was kind of renewed just last year. Notre Dame's 24-17 victory in South Bend. Now they're coming back to Michigan, kind of renewing this rivalry game that was ended, unfortunately, just a few years ago. They're giving the Fighting Irish a 62.2% chance to win this game, according to the Football Power Index. They're also coming off a bye week in this game. Maybe that kind of contributes to the high percentage for the Fighting Irish. Coming off a bye week, they're well rested. They've got a solid defense. They've got a better quarterback than Michigan and Ian Book. They have found a running game now for the Fighting Irish. It wasn't there earlier in the season. They have found it now. You know, in Michigan, kind of like we mentioned with Penn State in the recent years they've lost to Michigan State, could Michigan be hung over after such a crushing loss to the Nittany Lions? They battled back from 21-0, only lost 28-21, and could have tied it had they just been able to catch the pass in the end zone. So there is a question there. Are they going to be hung over? Are they going to be up for this game? And I know that they will. I know that Jim Harbaugh is going to have his team ready to go. Out of all 5 of these games, really I would say out of all the games in Week 9, this was the toughest game for me to pick. This was the toughest game for me to pick because I do question whether Michigan's going to be mentally right to come in there and pull off this upset over Notre Dame. But then again, I look at this game, and I know it's a rivalry game. I know it's big for these players. I know it's big for these coaches. It's a night game at the big house. They've got home field advantage. So I'm going back and forth. But in the end, I like Notre Dame in this one. Notre Dame simply has more to play for than Michigan. They know their playoff hopes are still alive, and they desperately need a win here to keep them alive. Notre Dame showed they can battle in tough places. They narrowly lost to Georgia earlier this season in Athens. So unlike Notre Dame teams in the past where they kind of implode in big games, Notre Dame has showed me that they can compete against the big dogs and keep things close and in some cases maybe escape with a win. A well-rested Notre Dame team versus a Michigan team that's coming off a bad or unfortunate loss to Penn State. I like the Fighting Irish in a close one at the big house. And then finally, we have Washington State at number 11, Oregon. This game, kind of like the Penn State-Michigan State one, if history's any indication, it's going to be a good one, and Oregon should watch out and be on upset alert because Washington State has defeated Oregon 4 straight times, guys. It's kind of hard to believe. 4 straight times that Washington State has beaten Oregon, dating all the way back to 2015. The last time they visited Eugene, Washington State won 33-10. Last year, we all remember, College Game Day went to Pullman for the first time ever, and Washington State showed up, defeating the Ducks 34-20. Now, the Cougars are kind of a disappointing team in college football this year, had a fantastic start to the season, but they're just 4-3. And that's not what many people expected from Mike Leach and his squad in 2019. They expected better. They expected to be in the Pac-12 title hunt. And with a guy like Anthony Gordon, you know, he was there before that 32-point implosion against UCLA. But with a guy like him, you can never count out the Cougars. A guy that's averaging 440.7 passing yards per game. A team that's averaging 42.7 points per game. This is an offense that you can't afford to overlook on any given week. But Washington State's defense is going to be their downfall. That's their downfall. An air raid offense like Washington State is super hard to stop for other defenses. But Washington needs to have just a little bit of a defense to win these close games. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it. They're allowing 28.7 points per game, and they're going up against an Oregon defense, guys, that's allowing 178.6 passing yards per game and just 11.9 points per game. So you look at Oregon's defense and how well they've stepped up. Guys, since that Auburn loss in Week 1, the 5 games following, they allowed an average of 5 points per game. Last week, yes, they allowed 31 to Washington, but still went on the road to Seattle and defeated the Huskies to keep their playoff and Pac-12 title hopes alive. So I think Washington State's defense is their downfall here. Oregon's defense is playing on a completely different level since that loss to Auburn. I think they step up once again, shut down Washington State's passing attack, and if you shut that down, they're not going to be able to win on the ground. They're going to be back and forth about the first half. Oregon pulls away late in this game. The Ducks win, and once again remain college football playoff contenders. Their only remaining threats against USC, Arizona State, both on the road, and then potentially a date with Utah in the Pac-12 championship game. So there are your top 5 games going into Week 9. We have some huge ones coming your way. Teams on upset alert. Teams that have major college football playoff implications. Teams that have major conference implications. You don't want to miss any of them. Now, of course, our Heisman Watch, couple new names up here, a couple that have been familiar. We took last week off. Now we're back in it for Week 9. You'll notice that Tua Tagovailoa is not up on our Heisman Watch. And that is simply because he got hurt. He got hurt about second quarter of that Tennessee game. He's going to miss this week against Arkansas. Then they have a bye week before they face off against LSU. And we saw what happened last year for Tua. He kind of got hurt later on in the season, and I think had he not gotten hurt, he would have won the Heisman over Kyler Murray. But since he started to struggle, Kyler Murray, that opened the door, he slipped in, won the Heisman. Tua's off our watch for now. He needs to have a big game against LSU to put himself back on it. But right now, we've got Jalen Hurd, our front runner, 2,074 passing yards this year, 30 total touchdowns, 705 rushing yards. The guy is unstoppable. The guy is simply unstoppable. He has thrived against every defense he's gone up against, and the Sooners are right now undefeated. It looks like they're going to finish the season undefeated, unless they maybe slip up to someone like Baylor, maybe someone against like Oklahoma State, rivalry games, or maybe a rematch against Texas potentially in the Big 12 championship game. He's going up against a Kansas State defense that's extremely good against the pass this Saturday. It's on the road. It's early morning, so you don't want to overlook that game, but expect another big day from Lincoln Riley and the Sooners offense. Over here, we've got Joe Burrow, who's really, in my opinion, neck and neck with Jalen Hurd right now. Nearly 2,500 yards through the air for Joe Burrow. Last week against Mississippi State, he set the LSU record for most passing touchdowns in a season. He's got 29 on the year. Add a couple rushing touchdowns on there, and his stats are even better. He's going up against a very difficult Auburn defense this week. He then gets a bye week, and then he goes up against Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Those two games will be very telling to see if Joe Burrow is legit. He faced off against a good Texas squad, lit them up. He's faced off against a good Florida squad, lit them up. But can he do the same against Auburn and Alabama? If so, he might be able to make a case for Joe Burrow to jump Jalen Hurd for number one in the Heisman Watch. Down here, we've got Jonathan Taylor. Even though despite that loss for Wisconsin against Illinois, he still put up 132 yards and 1 touchdown against the Fighting Illini. He's got 957 yards this season. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. He's got 19 total touchdowns, 15 rushing, 4 receiving. I said it over and over that Jonathan Taylor might finish his college career as the player to most deserve a Heisman but never get it. Maybe him and Darren McFadden at Arkansas. But he's putting up phenomenal stats. But when you're going up against guys like Jalen Hurd, Joe Burrow, and in recent years, Tua and Kyler Murray, it's very hard to win that Heisman. But Jonathan Taylor, a huge date against Ohio State. If he has a very big game against a Buckeyes defense that's allowing just 92.7 rushing yards per game, then he will definitely improve his stock in our Heisman Watch. And then finally, Chuba Hubbard, a guy that we have to give attention to as the nation's leading rusher, 1,265 yards this year for Chuba, 6.5 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, had 171 yards against Baylor. The Cowboys are 4-3. Chuba's doing everything he can, but the passing has to improve for the Cowboys. Spencer Sanders, Tylan Wallace, they've got to be able to connect a little bit to take that pressure off of Chuba. Teams know they're going to run. The teams can't always stop it, but they know it's coming. You implement a little bit more of a passing game, it opens more opportunities for Chuba. But despite all that, still over 1,200 yards this season. He's going up against Iowa State this upcoming week that's allowing 111 rushing yards per game. Expect another big day from Chuba. Expect his stock to continue to improve until proven otherwise. So our top 4 right now in our Heisman Watch. Tua's still out there. We know that. We just got to wait for him to come back for his injury. That's why we took him off for now. Other guys out there, you got Justin Fields, you got Justin Herbert, you got Sam Ehlinger, plenty of other quality players, but these are our top 4 entering week 9 of the college football season. It's a week you certainly don't want to miss. It's a week that could be the best we've had all season long by the conclusion of Saturday night. Don't miss it. Top 4 players, top 5 games, huge week of college football coming your way. Guys, thank you for watching. Go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert and check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for our newsletter. That just came out today. And also sign up for our expert picks, which will be coming out tomorrow. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.